And for more, it's always our pleasure to take you out to the site where the lead analyst of the NFL on CBS, Tony Romo, joins us with more. Tony, these are the Chiefs we've come to know over the last decade about. Where did you see the biggest change week over week for a team that really returned to form in their biggest moment thus far?
Well, I think there's two things. Obviously, getting Worthy back was a big deal, just with the speed and threatening the defense down the field on the third level. But I also think there was just something about where they needed that feeling of competitive greatness, where it's like they needed a challenge. They know they're going to be in it. They know they're all there. And in the NFL, you need to have that sometimes smack you in the face adversity. And I think they had that. And then you give them a great opponent they have to go against, and all of a sudden you see them show up today at a very, very high level.
I enjoyed what you said on the pre-show today on NFL Today about Pat Mahomes, his ability to learn within a game. Nate Burleson, as eloquently as he can put it, called him, I believe, Pat GPT, some machine learning there. But when we broaden that idea across a season, what do you think that Pat Mahomes at this juncture of his career has learned about this team through 4 weeks?
Well, it is Pat GPT. I mean, I was telling Nate and the guys on the crew beforehand, nobody learns faster. It's almost like he's able to just an algorithm that learns faster than other ones, and his ability to do that within a game is why they've won so many close games over the years. It's been a challenge a little bit this year, but they've had some tough opponents, and they had another one today, but they showed up when they needed to. But that's the DNA of championship teams, your ability to figure it out and not have to figure it out after the game. When you go back and watch the tape, it's during the game. And I think you saw Pat learn throughout this game, but also I think they learned about themselves, about how good they can actually be when everyone's healthy.
Yeah. Reports of my demise have been greatly exaggerated once again here for the Kansas City Chiefs, who flexed their muscles in a big spot against the Baltimore Ravens. A thought here before we go on Baltimore, Tony, because you fall to 1-3, that injury list gets even longer. I know there's runway in front of them, but how concerned are you right now with the start?
I wasn't that concerned going in. I thought this was more important for Kansas City with their schedule. Baltimore's schedule is a little bit more favorable for them, but I'm now concerned. If Lamar Jackson does have a hamstring, which we reported today was why he ended up not being able to finish the game, that makes me extremely concerned, because I don't know that this team defensively can just will them to victories. The Chiefs have done that before, where you saw Spagnuolo and this defense, while they're going through hiccups on offense, go ahead and just figure out ways to win, and Mahomes does his job in the second half. You're not going to have that quarterback. If that's the case, you can't afford many more losses before you have to go on some crazy run. So to me, this is a huge 2-3 week stretch for the Ravens. If I'm a Ravens fan, I'm concerned right now.
He is Tony Romo joining us here on CBS Sports HQ. Tony, always a privilege to have you.
Thanks. Appreciate you guys.
All right, so KC bounces back and a big win here over Baltimore, who falls one further. 1-3 on the season, and a loss that you don't often see with Lamar at the helm. 17 points between them and the Chiefs, the second largest loss in the Lamar Jackson-led era. More reaction to come on this one straight ahead on CBS Sports HQ. The guys delve deeper into how the Chiefs came to life. That's next. Back in studio with the guys, and it begs question, because this is not the Kansas City Chiefs team that we've seen this season. It was not the Kansas City Chiefs teams that we saw for large swaths of last season. The fact that they're figuring it out this early on against a prime opponent tells you what?
That they are still the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, that it really is that. I remember, a couple of weeks ago, people were freaking out, and there was talk of dynasties being over and whatnot. The fact is, in talking with people in Kansas City, they just said, we need to get our horses back. Right? And so when they add Xavier Worthy, you can see how this offense can be a little bit more explosive. When Hollywood Brown doesn't have to shoulder the load. When Juju Smith-Schuster on that rickety knee of his doesn't have to shoulder the load. When Travis Kelce isn't making game-defining mistakes, this is a team that is going to compete. Now you start seeing that Isaiah Pacheco gets a little oiled up. He's not, running into the ground for 1.5 yards per carry. That things start to work out. Like Matt Nagy and Andy Reid still know how to call offenses. And Patrick Mahomes still knows how to play the quarterback position better than most people have ever done it. And so they're going to get it figured out, and good for them doing it on a national stage against the Ravens.
Emory, I walked into the room in the midst of this one, and I asked just collectively the room, what's the difference right now? We're about halfway through it between these two teams. And in concert, you guys all said Xavier Worthy. Yeah. How big of a difference does he make in just the way the offense is called for Kansas City?
One, because when you have that type of speed that threatens everything, it lifts the coverage off the defense. And now you have to play assignment sound football consistently. So because you're so worried about getting beat deep, now you have the opportunity to work things underneath. The run game was a little bit better today. Mahomes was super efficient in the underneath passing game. All of that stuff matters. And how we see Kansas City is how we see, like, let's say these college teams like Nebraska in the 80s or, Florida in the 90s, those teams that have gone week to week ranked number one, just like the New England Patriots in the NFL under Bill Belichick when he was there in their heyday. You don't worry about Kansas City no matter what the record is. As long as Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes is there, they're going to be fine. So coming into this ballgame, they were asking the question, well, who needs this one more? Is it the Chiefs or the Ravens? I like the Ravens because of their psyche. Kansas City, I have no problems about no matter what the record is because of who's at quarterback and the head coach.
Moose, you asked how important Xavier Worthy is. He not only led them in receiving yards, he led them in rushing. Yeah. That lets you know how important he is. On 2 end-arounds, he had nearly 40 yards rushing. And you talked about how this Chiefs team finally kind of looked like themselves. Mahomes was more decisive because, to Emory's point, when you have a guy like Xavier Worthy, you got to play that shell coverage because you cannot have a single high safety with the type of speed that Xavier Worthy has. And when you do go, man, JJ, we were watching it. Chedabe Awuzie, he shakes him out of his route, and he's 150 pounds, gives him a little shoulder shimmy, and he goes 10 yards the other way.
He went flying.
He's wide open. That's the type of speed threat that Xavier Worthy brings. So this was the first time I saw Mahomes be decisive with the football. The ball came out of his hands really well. They still struggle running the football. I talked about Xavier Worthy leading them in rushing, but I love the operation from Patrick Mahomes in this offense. It just flowed a lot better today.
JJ, remind me, what is the unit of measurement for dynasties? How do we measure dynasties?
Super Bowl wins and appearances.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I only offer that to say, stop it. Stop it. Stop asking if the dynasty is dead in the midst of the season. I want to stand on this desk right now and scream it, not as a Chiefs fan, but as a lover of this game. They continue to find ways to develop in season. Until they hand 1 or 2 more trophies to someone else, stop asking if the dynasty is dead because we're still living in it. We're still watching it. It's definitely something that the Chiefs fans welcome in this moment, the development of what they can be. On the other side, guys, we have a Ravens team that has all of the makeups on paper of being right there to throw the dynasty overboard. Emory, what's the biggest issue right now? Injuries being one, but beyond that, what do you point to?
Psychology. They can't get out of their own way in terms of how they close games out or how they attack teams that are in these high-level spots. Think about this. Derrick Henry has 8 carries today for 42 yards. Pretty good average, but he only had 8 carries today. That's a problem. They were 3 of 10 on 3rd down. That's a problem. Usually we're talking about Baltimore under John Harbaugh playing great situational football. That's a testament to how well they're coached and how well they play. That wasn't the case today. And then we get to Lamar Jackson, who we all kind of talked about throughout the course of the season, didn't really look like himself, wasn't really running away from everyone like he usually does. And we find out today he has a hamstring injury that kept him out of the game. And that affects how they play offense because if Lamar Jackson can't be Lamar Jackson, he's a great passer, but what makes him special is his dual threat capability. And without that one element, now it's easier to defend because you know he can't get out of dodge, which he couldn't today. And that's how Kansas City was able to get off the field.
To me, Moose, it's a combination of what Emory talked about. Lamar not looking like himself. And we've said it for the last couple of weeks, like where occasions where linebackers and D linemen chase him down. Like we've never seen that from Lamar Jackson in the history of him playing. But then also, when you look at the play calling as well, too, there was no easy throws for Lamar Jackson. There hasn't been for the last couple of weeks. Todd Monken, every route concept is 10-plus yards down the field. Where are the easy hitters that Patrick Mahomes was getting today? Like, we know you have an MVP caliber quarterback, but those guys need help too. You have to make it easy, scheme some things up for them, and then the defense is a whole nother subject, right? They've really struggled to stop the run. Now, the Chiefs don't run the ball well, so they didn't have to worry about that today. But then you talked about the injuries, right? Marlon Humphrey goes down. Now you got some younger players in there. This was the most yardage that Patrick Mahomes had thrown for this year. And going into the season, a lot of people thought the Ravens had a top 2 defense in the NFL by the names on the roster. Now, when you have a boatload of injuries, that affects your defense. And we saw that Nnamdi Madubuike is not there, right? They've missed Kyle Van Noy for some time as well. Marlon Humphrey goes down. Roquan Smith goes down. So a little bit of what happened to the Detroit Lions last year is happening right now to the Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah, but it's happening in week 4.
Yeah, which is tough.
Which is tough. And also, even before the injuries, right, the Buffalo Bills still put 40-plus on him in week 1, right? So you mentioned some of the names, but Jair Alexander still working through it, was inactive today. Marlon Humphrey, Roquan Smith, both listed as out. Nate Wiggins did not return to the game. Madubuike is on IR, and we talk about at least 4 games. This looks like it will certainly be at least 4 games, and then there will be more involved. Kyle Van Noy has been banged up as well. You're talking about a Ravens team that legitimately has probably missed 6 of its top 7 defensive players, right? Yeah. It's Kyle Hamilton and then everybody else that's injured. And now you have Lamar Jackson's hamstring injury, which at this moment, we do not know how it's going to impact him moving forward. He didn't come back into the game, but the game was a blowout anyway, so he was not going to come back into that game.
I think if you package up all those points into a neat box, put a bow on it, we're talking about a team that's still efforting an identity, and it's one that usually is found in the guy behind Lamar Jackson and the dual threat ability of Lamar Jackson. We are now, JJ, looking at just over 100 yards of rushing for Derrick Henry over the last 3 weeks. That's after going for 169 in the season opener. Are we sounding alarms right now? I know Chase game script here, but 8 for 42 is a long way from their intended identity.
Well, psychology, I think Emory absolutely hit the nail on the head. It's about closing out games, and for Derrick Henry, who took off his arm sleeve and was wearing some sweatbands, like he's definitely in his own head trying to get rid of those fourth quarter fumbles, those game-changing fumbles. We had the schedule up right there. I mean, they have Houston, who is probably the best defense, one of the top 3 defenses in the NFL right now. They have Houston next week. They're going to look to stop Derrick Henry. Look at the schedule right here. They're 1-3. Whatever sort of model you have, you're 1-3. You don't make the playoffs, right? That's what all the statistics tell us. They have the Texans and then they have the Rams, one of the best teams in the NFL. Then they get their bye. You can go ahead and get healthy in your week 7 bye. Your season's done if you lose these next 2 games, right? So this is huge for them. These next 2 weeks will determine whether we're talking about the Baltimore Ravens playing in January.
An interesting thing is, to Moose's point, we'll see the health status of Lamar Jackson, because if Cooper Rush has to go, then you really have to lean on Derrick Henry. I think going even back to that Lions game, when he does fumble in the fourth quarter, it seemed like they were scared to go back to him. Now, again, that was the second time fumbling in the fourth quarter, and they lose the game. But he's still King Henry. Like, we saw at the beginning of the game, he was breaking off runs versus the Kansas City Chiefs, and they just did not stick with it. I don't understand why Todd Monken will not stick with him. Yes, players make mistakes. They fumble the ball. But when you have a player like Derrick Henry, for him to build that confidence and get over that hump, continue to give him the football. Like, that's what you do.
And it's crazy because if you go back to what he did to change this whole thing, we talked about it, him taking off the wrist sleeves or whatnot. But when you are not in your head, you don't worry about that stuff because you know I don't fumble the football. I'm fine. Yeah. But he's already in his head. Yeah. Also, when you think about Todd Monken, I feel like the Ravens are getting predictable by personnel because every time you see Justice Hill come in the game, they about to throw the ball to the backs. You got to be able to switch things up because if we can notice it in the media watching the game, just think what these guys as defensive coordinators are able to figure out, and they study you week in, week out.
You know, for all that they don't have. You know what the Ravens do have? 6 days to think about it. Houston defense on the way and a Ravens team that's looking for answers. All right, we can find umpteenth ways to frame the greatness of Patrick Mahomes, and you could try and stamp it as done, over, or otherwise. Kid just turned 30. Fewest career games with 250 through the air. 116 games, 5 faster than next closest. Now second, Aaron Rodgers. More to come here on HQ from KC and all across the NFL. Highlights and reaction continue next on HQ Postgame.